Okay, The War for the Future of Auckland by Andrew Atkin, me. Okay, what I want to describe is how our cities were, what they looked like before cars. Now, in our bigger cities, like London, New York and Tokyo, or that sort of thing, the cities were high density. It's because they had to be because of the transport technology at the time. What was it? I mean, it was trains here and there, commuter trains coming in. If it was a very sizable city, it would have that. Walking, push bikes, and of course, horses. Great problem with that, of course, was the incredible amounts of horse poo that they produced. Incredibly unhygienic. I mean, you've seen one horse go down the road and what it leaves on the street. Imagine having hundreds, thousands of horses in a city. It was a real issue. Stunk to high heaven. Blew the crap into the wind, blew horse feces everywhere, and there were maggots, flies, and people getting sick all over the place. They were quite nasty, those old cities. But the main thing is that the housing was extremely costly because the transport was so limited. People couldn't just escape to the fringes where there's plenty of land into rural type areas. They were forced to make do with what land existed, and so the rents were absolutely crazy. They were extremely high. You would sometimes see, like in New York, an entire family crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment with grandma and all. Very, very difficult living on that level. But then the revolution happened. It was Mr. Ford. He mass-produced the private auto. And it wasn't just a mobility revolution, like you can go from here to there, quick and easy. It effectively created an incredible, massive amount of new land from the cities. It was the end of the old world city and in with the new world city. So what happens is, of course, there was this massive flight to the suburbs. Well, the car created the suburbs, as we know them. And as all the people moved out to the fringes, the jobs and the infrastructure followed them naturally. Because, of course, business is as attracted to people as people are to business. If you have a city and you create a new area on the outside of it, which accommodates, 10,000 people, you're going to get new businesses localizing to that area, creating what we call now the polycentric city, which is not one huge CBD in the middle, but a whole lot of little CBDs in effect all over the place that are interconnected. That's actually a vital progression as well when you've got a car-based city, because what it does with those new nodes is it localizes most of the new transport demand to the fringes, to the new node. And in modern cities, modern car-based cities, most of the transport demand, only 10% of the transport demand, about that goes to the old central business district. Cities have exploded in effect with cars. Now, sprawl by people who call themselves environmentalists has been demonized massively. It's been blamed on creating congestion, which is a nonsense. It keeps congestion under control. If you don't allow a city to expand, you get way worse congestion than if you do allow it to expand. And that's a fact. It's an empirical fact. High-density cities have far worse congestion than low-density cities. But it's been demonized because we keep getting these pictures in our mind of the dreaded sprawl paving over Mother Nature so that, the cities are going to swallow the entire earth. That is a nonsense, always has been a nonsense. The human footprint is overwhelmingly about farmland, not houses. In New Zealand, for example, how much land area do you think is taken over by cities of the total land area? It's 0.8%, 1 part in 125. It's tiny. And within those cities, only about half of it, or maybe even less, is actually paved over. Most of it's garden, not most of it. A huge amount of it is garden, trees, and lawns. Now, these environmentalists, the progressives, as they call them, Greenies, and all that kind of people, like that camp is everywhere in politics. They're not just the Green Party, it's people involved in local governments as well. Have all been indoctrinated into this anti-sprawl thing. What they want to do is they want to take us back to the past. And they want to do it artificially by stopping our cities from expanding geographically. What happens when you do that? Well, we already know. You end up with a bidding war from hell on the available land, and rents go through the roof. The cost of land goes through the roof. What should be a $40,000 section on the fringe is now a $400,000 section, and on and on. I hardly need to talk about that now. I mean, I've been bitching about it for years, 10 years more, and I'm now painfully vindicated on it. I mean, we're selling houses in Auckland now for $1 million, which is absolutely ridiculous. In real terms, they're probably worth about, on average, $250,000, $300,000 is what they should be selling for. It's all artificial price inflation. That comes from the bidding war from hell, which comes from those metropolitan urban limits. Now, what I want to see happen, and what will in the long term happen, it has to happen, competitive forces will force New Zealand to go down this direction, or our country simply won't be able to compete, because we won't be able to offer the lifestyles people want to have as a natural preference. What I want to see happen is the metropolitan urban limits to be broken down so that the new wave of transport development coming from driverless car technology can breathe, can have its way. Now, what kind of city expansion are you going to get with driverless car technology? It's an interesting question. For a start, driverless cars will give you network-based transport, basically Uber. Except when the car bowls up into your front door in 1 or 2 minutes, there's no driver in it, and the car is only the size that you need it to be. And usually that'll be just, 70-80% of the time it'll be a single-seater. Like a Twizy car, if you want to Google for that. So very, very efficient, very cheap, and because it's network-based, because you don't need to own a car, you can start to build entire suburbs based on this technology. And we will inevitably do that. And to get that picture in your mind, just think of a golf course with a one-way road that weaves through it. And the cars are going to be silent now, because that's actually all you need. You don't need all that massive parking infrastructure. And the vehicle is precisely held to the track. And what that means is that the roads don't dominate the scenery, but grass, trees and garden does. And because it's electric, it's silent. You can create the most fantastic places to live with this new wave of what I call green sprawl, which is, I firmly believe, for logical, common sense reasons really, is inevitable. You can create these amazing lifestyle type developments at a practical density that are super private, super green, and you can do it for infrastructure costs that are probably less than half of what we pay in existing developments, especially if you're catching water off your roof. And that's where the world is going to go. We're going to see examples of that everywhere. Now, if New Zealand doesn't offer those opportunities to the market where their cities expand, by allowing their cities to expand, you're going to get the ultimate boycott. People will just say, ha ha, New Zealand, very funny, I'm not paying $1 million for your half-rotten piece of junk, semi-high density living, because I can go somewhere, I don't know, South America, North America, South Asia, wherever, and buy a house in these wonderful, affordable places in environments that are probably socially controlled, so that you have, like, in the same way we have little China towns in Auckland, you'd have little Kiwi towns in China, or whatever the market wants. They'll have these alternatives, and the entire New Zealand economy will have to answer to those alternatives. If we don't get rid of metropolitan limits, and to stress with green sprawl, the environmental rationalisation is beyond ridiculous. It does not exist. You're actually creating gardens, not taking them away. But if we don't do that, we will not be able to compete. It's going to be all about lifestyle in this century, this 21st century, especially with accessory products like computers, cell phones, dishwashers, blah blah, being so cheap because they're so efficiently mass produced. So it's coming down. This is where we're going in the future. The problem is, with the metropolitan urban limits, we've got these idiot environmentalists who call themselves environmentalists. I don't call them that. There's something else. are doing a tremendous amount of damage in the meantime, stuffing up an entire generation's ability to have children comfortably. Oh, and that's an important thing to note as well. Henry Ford actually helped to facilitate the baby boom by providing affordable housing, making it easy for people to have kids. That is being reversed. And one of my major ambitions, and this is really what I'm concluding to, in politics, where I'm going with this, is I want to fight against these progressives who want to take away the massive opportunities that driverless car technology is giving to us, and to fight them, to stop them from destroying affordable housing. I've been doing that for years now, and this is just another addition to that end. We've got to get rid of the metropolitan urban limits. Madness, pure madness, especially in a country like New Zealand. And we need to embrace green sprawl and let driverless car technology, as it inevitably will, have its way. We need to do it sooner, not later. And if you don't like the fact that your property prices are going to fall as a consequence of this, it's going to happen anyway. If you've really got a problem with it, get out of the game now. That's all I can say. Because it's better that we take our punishment now, let the property prices correct, than have the entire New Zealand economy go down with it, because we can't do what we obviously need to do. Thank you.